I'm your host, Sleepy Heaton, as usual. I wake up at 6:06 p.m., run to the computer and start it up so that I can begin streaming. Alright, so we were in the trial. We were... No, don't tell me. Oh, Sarge was revealed. Sarge came out and is actually his daughter, not son. We think, anyway. Long blonde hair. And wheelchair bound. And lives on the second story of his house. And he berates her every day for not going outside. Or something like that. I may be a little mixed up. So we had done this, the therapy session. We were like, oh, she passed out, apparently, because there was a fire. She saw a fire, went unconscious, put on an eye patch, and said something about nanomachines, I'm sure. Sergeant Buff, reporting for duty. What? I thought you were a guy. You're definitely not the gruff drill sergeant I envisioned. Well, my mama was in the Russian army. It's Olga's daughter. What did I say? I made a quick little throwaway joke about, haha, someone's gonna put on an eye patch and say something about Metal Gear. No, she's Olga's daughter. There we go. Guten Abend to you. Probably, whatever that means. I was just as shocked, but it certainly explained a few things when I found out, too. May I introduce you to Miss... I'm getting too old for this. Game of mama. May I introduce you to Miss Army Buff, age 12? No way. Careful, soldier. Don't forget, I could blow you away at a moment's notice. She's just too cute. So, have you always been in a wheelchair, Sarge? Negative. Only since I was injured. Her real name is Armada. It could be a no, then there's no R. I was trying to think of a real name. I was trying to give her a real name. Negative. Only since I was injured in the fire. Your voice sounds awfully different from before. My drone features a voice modulation device. It's just one of my army's many technological marvels. Well, you fooled me. I thought some 20-something military fanatic was at the controls. If it's all the same to you, troops, I'd like to continue my testimony. I've just remembered something, and it's as crisp and clear as a trumpet at roll call. What did you remember? It wasn't my mother who appeared in the burning orb. It was some lady Papa had shown me a picture of a long time ago. He said it was the Holy Mother, the founder of Qurainism. she appeared right there, right in the burning orb. Huh? What did you just say? The Holy Mother of Kharinism was in the burning orb? What does that even mean? I have a bad feeling about this. Could it be? Could this explain what Sarge means by the Holy Mother appearing in the burning orb? Ah, okay. So maybe the poem was also supposed to be a hint that when the orb was created, they somehow carved her face inside of the orb in a way that you can only see it if you set it on fire.
Take that!
Yeah, I guess so. Dr. Buff's research notes, what do they have to do with this? Look at this. The burning orb, the appearance of the founder. Oh, come on, game. Obviously I know. Well, the whole thing probably is. There's a legend about the orb involving a mysterious riddle. Oh, you know what? It's freezing in here. Hang on. There we go. Just set some stuff on fire. That should warm the place up. There's a legend about the orb involving a mysterious riddle, and this song, in turn, is said to contain the key to solving it. If the legend is true, then I believe the answer lies in this part of the song. Offer thy prayers as fervent as fire, only then shall the Holy Mother return. Well, anyone see where I'm going with this? Prayers as fervent as fire? Ah! You're supposed to set the orb on fire tonight. The whole stanza seems to suggest that the founder will appear if the orb is set on fire. Wait, so the doctor, he... Yes, Athena. He had solved the ancient riddle of the founder's orb. Oh my! Papa was a great archaeologist, so I believe in him, and I want to believe he achieved his long-time dream of solving that riddle before he died. We won't know for sure until we try it for ourselves. Yes, do it, Private Justice. Please. Whatever this is, I think it's going to become relevant. Maybe not. Who knows? I haven't seen it anywhere else, so maybe it won't. I want to see what Papa was searching for with my own eyes. The plaintiff must object to this.
Objection!
Is that the... It could be, I guess. Well, she's supposed to be a sergeant. The plaintiff will stand down and be quiet. You don't have the right to set a precious relic like that on fire. Oh, but I do. All I needed was Sarge's permission. Since we still don't know if this treasure is the Founder's Orb or the Crystal of Ami Faye, any ownership rights the Doctor had now belong to his daughter. Therefore, you have absolutely no right to stop us. Very well, Mr. Justice. I never thought I'd be saying this, but you may burn the evidence. All right, here we go. That tiny little lighter. Look. Apollo, the inside of the orb, it's melting. Is that how that works? Dirk, isn't she... Her garb leaves no room for doubt. It's the founder herself. Arson in the court. It's allowed, though. We just went over this. The guy who owned the orb died. His daughter is here. She said set it on fire. That overrides any safety precautions, legal court things. Face and all. I don't understand. The greatest of taboos in Koreanism is the depiction of the founder's face. Yet here it is, hidden within this orb. Sorry, Mr. Wright, but as you can see, the issue is crystal clear. This figure is the Holy Mother, founder of Koreanism. And based on that, this must be none other than the founder's orb. Be that as it may, Mr. Arwell may still may have killed the doctor. If so, it would render the orb transfer agreement null and void. Don't play dumb, Mr. Wright. The truth of the matter has already been proven. Hidden within this orb? I see. Welcome, Garrett. And Voltenface. Dr. Buff wasn't killed right after Sarge saw Mr. Arwell. It happened after the doctor came back from hiding the orb, and you've no proof that Mr. Arwell was still around at the time. Urgh. Your claim that the Defiant Dragons were behind the crime doesn't hold water, and that means this orb transfer agreement is still perfectly valid. Admit it, Mr. Wright. I just burned your whole case to the ground. Ooh. I ain't screaming no like that. I won? I actually won? Mr. Wright, would you care to respond? Respond? I didn't think so. Wait, did we just win? Did we actually beat the Turnabout Terror? But what about this piece of evidence? It's it's a set of 12 video cameras that were all in the study and all taping him being killed by dots at different angles. You're amazing, Apollo. Don't just stand there, Wright. Do something. Well, I don't think there's any digging out of this hole. Mr. Atishon-Wimperson, I think it's time for your concession speech. I have proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is the Founder's Orb. The facts don't lie, but you obviously do. How's that for a campaign slogan? Why, you contemptuous peasant. And here's a signed confession by Mr. Datz, which has been notarized by a certified notary. We still haven't proven who the killer was. Datz gets executed, and the orb returned to the plaintiff. It's only fair. I think this is a good time to wrap up this trial. If both parties have no further objections, I will render my verdict. No objections here, Your Honor. Hold it! You can't do this. The crystal is mine. I'll lose the election if I lose that crystal. I'm sorry, but there's really nothing more I can do. You haven't forgotten about our little chat, have you? Oh, Maya's a hostage. Or something. What's going on here?
Objection!
Your Honor, I object to the defense's last claim. What? I don't believe they've truly proven that the relic is indeed the Founder's Orb.
Objection!
Mr. Wright, I don't think even you could bluff your way out of this one. What possible argument could you have to the claim that this isn't the Founder's Orb? About that. Oh, of course. There's no rules. I award the Founder's Orb to myself, and I'm running for office. He can't possibly have hit on something. The defense's assertion is incomplete, and this is why. The defense is basing their claim that this is the relic. The defense is basing their claim that this is the relic. No. The defense is basing their claim that this relic is the Founder's Orb on a legend. And that legend claims that the Founder will return when the riddle is solved at last. Right, and that's what happened. The Founder was revealed for all to see. But Mr. Justice, what about the rest of the legend? Huh? According to the legend, once the Founder returned, she would bestow spiritual power onto the person who solved the riddle. You're kidding, right? Well, Mr. Justice, do you feel great spiritual power coursing through your veins? If I just say yes, do I win at court? Is that how court works? No. But receiving spiritual power and stuff, it's all just mystic mumbo-jumbo, right? Objection? Maybe so. You've seen... Every person in your life has mystical powers. But you're the one basing your claim on said legend. And what we saw here does not fully fulfill it. Fully fulfill it. Does it? No, but... Consequently, you cannot rightfully claim that this is the Founder's Orb. Gotten into him. Why is Mr. Wright doing this? It would appear that Mr. Wright has lost a few of his marbles. That couldn't be further from the truth, Your Honor. In any case, I believe this is a good time for a recess. Both sides will have 20 minutes to prepare. Hey, Faded. Oh, and Mr. Wright, you'd do well to wash up and find your missing marbles by then, too. So Maya's a hostage, or Trucy's a hostage, or something. Well, not Trucy. Trucy's fine. Mr. Wright is sure acting funny. I mean, he's famous for going out on a limb, but that last assertion was just plain crazy. It's either a bluff or a Hail Mary. Either way, it doesn't make much sense. Maybe there's something we're missing here. Although he seemed perfectly normal when we spoke earlier. Apollo, I have a bad feeling about this. I'm going to go check up on him. Peta, 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 peta. What's going on with you, Mr. Wright? Hey, Private Justice. Oh, Sarge. I forgot to mention something. On the night of Papa's murder, a strange thing happened. Oh? Well, why are you only telling me about it? Why are you only telling me about it now? Well, I didn't say anything before because I thought Papa's death was an accident. But now that we know otherwise, I figured it might be important. There's still more to this case? Of course, there's still more to the case. We haven't proved Dirk's innocence from 23 years ago yet. When I left my room and lost consciousness, I passed out right here. That's right above the coffee bar. But when I came to, someone was pushing my wheelchair. What? I was so scared, I beat a hasty retreat as fast as my wheels could take me. Do you know who it was? No, it was pitch black. Plus, I fled to my room so fast I didn't even have the chance to turn on the lights. Maybe it was your father. No, he would have said something to me. Besides, I'd have known if it was him. So then, it could have been your father's real killer? My thoughts exactly. But you didn't report this to the police? It didn't even occur to me. It's okay. You were obviously still upset, so don't beat yourself up over it. Oh, that's right! That's right, Riddick was in that movie, and his character's name was Pitch Black. Because it was written by the same people who wrote this game. Apollo, this could be really important information. I think the act of pushing Sarge's wheelchair could be part of some bigger scheme. It's hard to see why else the killer would have done such a thing. Guess I should take her statement down as evidence. Oh, welcome back, Athena. What's with the long face? How'd it go with Mr. Wright? What should I... Athena? Oops, sorry. Zoned out there for a sec. The recess is almost over, so let's go. What was that all about?
All right, court is once again back in session. Now, Mr. Wright, about that last objection you raised.
We, the plaintiffs, still believe that the defense has yet to sufficiently prove its case. Okay. They claim that according to legend, the Founder's Orb would bestow spiritual power, yet the relic in question has failed to do so. Therefore, it has failed its own test.
I see.
He's sticking with that ridiculous argument? Furthermore, even if it is the Founder's Orb, it can't be awarded to the Defiant Dragons. After all, they were the ones who killed Dr. Boff. What are you talking about? That was already proven to be false. There are no grounds for asserting that the Defiant Dragons murdered the Doctor. Oh, but I'm afraid there are, Mr. Justice. Your Honor, I would like to present new testimony to this court. Testimony that will show that Dutz Arbol did, in fact, kill Dr. Buff. What?
Very well. You may call your witness.
I guess Mr. Wright found another new angle. What new testimony could there be this late in the game?
Fellow citizens, it is I, Paul Atishon, the once and future representative of the people.
Jeez, not him again. My client divulged new information to me during the recess. He remembered something he saw, you see. Something crucial to this case. How very convenient. How very Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney of him.
It was around 11 o'clock at night, and I was out on a mobile meet and greet around the village. That's when I saw Dr. Buff being murdered from outside his study window. Mr. Arbol snuck up from behind and struck him on the head. His weapon of choice? A suitcase. A big, strong man like him could easily swing a heavy suitcase into someone's head.
There's no blood on the suitcase. You saw the murder as it happened? And you're just telling us now because...
I saved the best for last. It's a tactic known to all the political greats. The murder weapon was a complete mystery, but my client's eyewitness account has finally brought it into the light.
According to the autopsy report...
I already dusted the suitcase for head prints, of course.
According to the autopsy report, Dr. Buff was struck in the head by the corner of some object. I suppose that could very well be the corner of a suitcase.
Objection!
Those are rounded corners. But eyewitness testimony isn't the same as hard evidence. Oh, I wouldn't worry about that if I were you. What's that supposed to mean? We have physical evidence too. A luminol test revealed. Oh, I see. The doctor's blood on Mr. Arbel's suitcase. Really? But how does that prove Mr. Arbel used it as a weapon? You should know the answer to that, Mr. Justice. Since you know as well as I that the suitcase is covered in his fingerprints. I forgot we dusted it right in front of Emma. Shouldn't that only prove that he has touched his own suitcase before, not that he is the one who used it as a weapon? A suitable murder weapon. That's good. That's a good one. Seems to be the case. You guys are having a grand old time over there. The turnabout terror strikes again.
This is quite convincing testimony and evidence. Nevertheless, you may proceed with your cross-examination, Mr. Justice.
So this is like as silly as this is. This is more like it. I'm enjoying this more than the other cases so far.
Okay, sure.
Hold it!
Sounds like you witnessed something rather shocking.
Indeed. I didn't even believe it at first. I mean, a vicious murder in Karain?
There haven't been many murders there, I take it.
If I'm elected, I promise you that such a terrible tragedy will never happen again. A vote for me is a vote to banish murder forever from our beloved Karain village.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Mr. Atishon-Wimperson, please tell the court what you saw at the scene of the crime.
Hold it!
He snuck up from behind. So you're saying the doctor never even realized Mr. Arbel was there?
That's right. He was utterly absorbed in a book.
I see. What did you see Mr. Arbel do next?
He climbed up the bookshelf ladder and dumped a bunch of books down on the body. I believe he was trying to make it look like an accident, but that idiot didn't realize I could see everything from outside the window.
One of those statements doesn't feel right. Your Honor, I believe the witness made an important statement just now about how... The doctor was reading a book at the time of the murder? That's vital testimony.
Very well. The witness will please add that statement to his testimony.
Hold it!
You watched a murderer commit his crime and did nothing to stop it? That doesn't sound like a good way to score points with the voting public.
I am a politician, not a superhero. I'm under no obligation to risk life and limb.
He sure is quick to deny his obligations when there's nothing in it for him. I'm getting tired of listening to his endless campaigning and flimsy rationalizations. About your testimony, Mr. Atishon-Wimperson. You said Mr. Arbel struck the doctor from behind while he was absorbed in a book.
Yes, that's exactly what happened.
Oh my god, I only have one life. No, we don't have... The suitcase weighs like 300 pounds or some nonsense, but I don't think we have that as a truth bullet. What would be the problem with him reading the book? I mean, I guess if we're saying this... Oh no, what? There's something... We know what that book was about, and it was about something different than the rest of the books, and I don't remember what it is. All of the other books on the shelf were about archaeology, and that one was about Raisin Bran or something. I don't know. Ha! There we go. He was not wearing his glasses. I knew that was...
Objection!
That was important. I took note of that, and I should have explicitly remembered, like, somebody is going to claim that he was reading at the time that he died. It's like, nope, his glasses were on the little pyramid. Yeah, like he actually had dumbbells in there, in the suitcase. The doctor was standing in front of the bookshelves, absorbed in a book, you say? I'm sorry, but it seems your testimony is completely unreliable. That's quite a bold statement. Well, let's hear you back it up. I challenge you to prove that I am anything but 100% reliable. It would be my pleasure. Lately, it seems the doctor's eyes had gotten so bad he needed reading glasses. However, his reading glasses were over on his desk. So you see, there's no way he could have been reading in front of the bookshelves. Herg! I'm sorry, Mr. Atishon-Wimperson, but I'm going to have to ask you to explain this discrepancy to the voting public. You what? I'll explain it, you lowly cur. I'm suddenly Byakuya again. I simply made a mistake, you see. The doctor was actually sitting at his desk when Mr. Arbel hit him over the head. But then the doctor would have been facing him. Surely he would have seen him and tried to run. Dr. Buff was nodding off. I could tell because his eyes were closed and he wasn't moving. Sounds more like what you would do. Then how do you explain the fact that he was struck in the back of the head? Isn't that something that should be impossible from the front of the desk? Oh, about that. He bowed his head when he nodded off. That's when he was clobbered. So that's what you saw. Well, Mr. Justice, that sounds like a perfectly reasonable explanation to me. Do you have a problem with the proposal that the doctor was struck while nodding off? Yeah. There is a problem. A very big problem. The witness's statement doesn't hold up under the slightest bit of scrutiny. Is that so? Then will you please show this court what evidence you have to justify this? Gladly, Your Honor. This shows the problem with the witness's claim that he saw the doctor nodding off. He had drank coffee. He would fall asleep after drinking coffee. He hit him with the suitcase, pushing him into the Wabad statue. I'm a little... It was only 10 p.m., and that's too early to go to bed. I was, but I don't think that's really it. If that was going to be it, they would have established something like, oh, this is the demon coffee of the... It's basically like the ghost pepper of... It's the Dark Souls of coffee. Also, we don't have something that's like an actual picture of a coffee pot. We just have this, which has a note on it that says one of the books is stained with coffee. Shouldn't there be blood all over the place if he was killed in the seat? But I don't think I have any evidence of that. I'm just gonna present the study photo. That's the worst that could happen. Oh, I died. Glaring problem. See, the witness has passed out from the overwhelming power of my evidence. No, Mr. Justice. Your lackadaisical attempt to refute him put my client to sleep, that's all. I feel a yawn coming on myself. Perhaps giving you this penalty will wake me up. No, just drink the coffee instead. Yeah, normally things aren't relevant unless... Like, if something's relevant, it's almost always the case that it'll actually be in the description. And I almost just clicked at random, and I might have hit return to title, and we would have lost all our progress. Nope. They just said if we can't do this legally, we're not going to do it at all. There's only 2 rebels. No, that's not it. And the pregnant woman who's now in jail. Think about the relative positions of the... Alright, so she started hinting. Is that... Is it... Is it the autopsy report? Like, the fact that he was struck in the back of the head? Like, I feel like him saying, oh, he sat at the desk and nodded off. And they're like, well, okay.
Take that!
Nope. I have been misled. So is it that there's no room behind him? I had assumed that they meant, oh, he nodded off, like, and his head came forward, and so he hit him from the front, and... I'll try it. Try the map. Oops. Try the map.
Take that!
Ah, alright. Phoenix would show his badge, but we're playing as Apollo. We're here to win. A diagram of the study? Mr. Atishon... Oh, wait. You wouldn't be able to see it? Is that what's going on? No, I don't know what. Mr. Atishon-Wimperson allegedly viewed the murder from here. And the doctor was allegedly nodding off here. But from his vantage point, the bookcase would have blocked the witness's line of... Oh, there was a bookcase? Oh, okay. I guess there was, yeah. Sure. All right. The bookcase that had the American history book on it.
Why, yes, I believe you're right. But, Arg!
Objection!
The fact remains, my client knew that the suitcase was the murder weapon, so he definitely has first-hand knowledge of the crime scene. He did it. I'm afraid I have to agree with you there, Mr. Wright. But then we have to ask ourselves, from what vantage point did he see the murder? What are you insinuating, Mr. Justice? From what vantage point could Mr. Atishon-Wimperson have seen the dozing doctor? Once we determine that, I believe we'll finally see the truth behind this incident.
Am I gonna say that it's from, like, right back here? Is that gonna work?
Take that!
You've got to be kidding. But that's... It is indeed, but everything only makes sense if the witness was there in the... Okay, I think if I clicked anywhere in the study, it would work. He was behind the tree. He has the ability to see through trees. And through walls, but only when he's looking through a tree. Inside the study, but that's the scene of the crime. I know. Mr. Atishon-Wimperson, the man who claims to be a witness to the murder, was most certainly in that very room. Apollo, are you suggesting that the same thing that's happened in every criminal trial in Japanifornia in the past 7 years is true here, too? Mr. Atishon-Wimperson, weren't you the one who actually swung that suitcase?
Objection!
Gah! What you're proposing is ludicrous. My client is a small, thin man, whereas Mr. Arbel has the musculature to pull it off. He has a point. I gave up trying to lift that thing after one go. That's right. He's the only one who could have carried such a heavy object. Now, do you understand? The rebel Dot Arbel is the doctor's killer. As long as the suitcase is the murder weapon, the suspicion falls entirely on Dots. You'll have to poke a hole in Mr. Wright's argument somehow, Apollo. Oh, I will. And with his own technique, no less. If Mr. Atishon-Wimperson couldn't swing the suitcase around, we'll just have to consider another way he could have used it as a murder weapon instead. I'm going to turn this case on its head, Mr. Wright, just like you taught me. You talk big, Mr. Justice, but do you have what it takes?
Well, this should be interesting.
Mr. Atishon-Wimperson's testimony has been filled with one inaccuracy after another. First, he stated that Dr. Buff was in front of the bookshelves. Now he claims that the doctor was sitting at his desk. So where was the victim really when he was killed? Also, where was his killer? And how was the murder weapon really used?
So the important thing here is the position of the victim and killer relative to each other?
Yes, Your Honor. If they were positioned in a certain way, it would be possible to use the suitcase as a weapon without lifting a finger. You can't mean... I would ask the court to recall the study's layout. It's quite distinctive, as you can see. Now, if Dr. Buff were sitting in a certain spot and his killer was at a certain other spot, the suitcase would become a weapon anyone could use. I don't know what you're talking about. That... Japanifornia approves that the word witness and suspect mean the same thing. That's practically true.
Very well, Mr. Justice.
Where was Dr. Buff's killer at the time of the crime? Did he, like...
Take that!
Oh, that's... This should wrap things up nice and pretty for you, Mr. Wright. I would ask the court to recall the study's layout, but this time, instead of thinking in 2 dimensions, let's think in 3. Only then can we clearly see the killer's method at work. But this is only a Game Boy Advance game. We can't just kurikaisu this map. Oh my goodness! That's exactly what we're doing. The killer didn't have to swing the suitcase. If he used gravity to his advantage, that is. That's right, it was the plaintiff, one Paul Atishon-Wimperson, who used the suitcase. He pushed it from the 2nd floor and sent it hurtling down onto Dr. Buff, who was sitting at the coffee bar. Yarg! Gravity was the killer. He used the ultimate weapon of Grape Tower. The psychology book had been at the coffee bar, no doubt. The doctor must have set it down there after he'd finished reading it or the like. And that's what it was. It wasn't grape nuts. It was a psychology book. But his blood got on it, which is why the killer thought to hide it in that mountain of books. That's quite an entertaining theory you have there, Mr. Justice. But there's no evidence that the murder took place at the coffee bar. Not so sure about that, Mr. Wright. You did make a terrible Secret of Space reference last time. Now there's 100% a pusher robot. The evidence does exist, and I'm going to show you. You are? This right here is proof that the murder took place at the coffee bar.
Take that!
This brown stain was determined to be coffee. What's more, it was still a bit damp when we saw it yesterday morning. One look at this book speaks volumes, I'm afraid, Mr. Wright. Haha, see what he did there? It tells us the doctor was having a cup of coffee at the coffee bar. That's not entirely true. As we all know, coffee cups are bolted down and cannot be taken elsewhere. That's when the suitcase came hurtling down, striking him on the head, causing both his blood and the coffee to spatter onto it. Ack! Ag! Well, Mr. Atishon-Wimperson? What motive could I possibly had to kill Dr. Buff? And there it is, that final excuse cornered killers are so fond of. Well, the doctor never returned your crystal to you, did he? Instead, he hid it in the cave ruins. Telling him that the Defiant Dragons were a dangerous bunch was a huge blunder. All it did was make him hide the orb. Your lie came back to bite you in the end. Even worse, the doctor saw the news report, so he knew the relic was the Founder's orb. Being the conscientious researcher he was, he knew he had to return it to its rightful place. And that meant keeping it out of your hands. You were so angry that he refused to return the relic to you? That you killed him with your own hands. Isn't that right, Mr. Atishon-Wimperson? Arrgh! That is... Apollo, don't! Please don't accuse my client of murder. Okay. Huh? What do you mean, don't accuse him? Why would you even say that, Mr. Wright? What I meant was, he's a promising politician with a bright future ahead of him. It's in our nation's best interest to avoid burdening him with the taint of scandal. Wink, wink. Apollo is not catching on. Say what? Right, you'd better do something to change the current courtroom climate, or I'll be charged with murder. And you know what will happen to her if that happens. Very unsuspicious. Arg! What's he talking about? Well, I can ponder that later. For now, time to do something irreversible. Mr. Wright, you can't possibly believe that Mr. Arvo is the killer. Are you really going to send an innocent man to prison? I thought you were better than that. Well, Mr. Wright, answer me. Mr. Wright? What the world's going on here? If you won't say anything, then... Mr. Atishon-Wimperson, the defense hereby accuses you of... Apollo, wait! Not you too, Athena. It's just, I wasn't sure whether I should say anything, but during that last recess, when I went to check on Mr. Wright, I overheard something I shouldn't have. I trust Maya is unharmed. He just chills inside of his palanquin, inside of the ready room, whatever it's called, the lobby. I can't really say, but just remember, if I'm arrested or fail to obtain the treasure, there will be consequences. Consequences of the worst kind, if you catch my drift. Og! Relax. All you have to do is ensure I get my hands on that relic. I must deliver it to my benefactor at all costs. What do they want that relic for, anyway? It's something to do with an old legend. My patron seeks the great power said to be granted to whoever solves its secret. Maya? As in Maya Fey? Yes, the boss's legend... Sorry, I still only just woke up. Yes, the boss's legendary former assistant. Ms. Fey's being held hostage? So it seems. Why didn't you tell me as soon as you heard this? Sorry, it's just Mr. Wright spotted me before I could slip away and made me promise not to tell you. He said it would make things more difficult if you found out. Arg! As if things weren't hard enough. So that's why Mr. Wright was acting so strange. Oh, Densetsu no Ashistanto. I had no idea. This must have been excruciating for him. Think, Justice. There's got to be something you can do. Mr. Justice, about that last statement of yours, I believe you were in the middle of accusing the plaintiff of murdering Dr. Buff. That is your job as the defendant in a civil case? Or no, what are we? Not defendants. What do you call them? What's the opposite of a plaintiff? Nobody knows. Would you care to continue? I'm sorry, Apollo. I'm really, really sorry. What's gotten into you two? Specialtive. Oh, bleh. If I accuse that slime bag, I put Miss Live's Faye in... Miss Live's Faye. Her name is Miss Live. It's part of a pun, you see. It seems you finally caught on. I'm far too important to be accused of murder. After all, our nation's future rests squarely on my shoulders. Either I give up, or... Once I present the crystal to my patron, my victory is assured. Then one day I'll become president and then king. I didn't think we had a king. I'll have every politician at my command. Now, retract your accusation. I can't kowtow to him, but the defense would like to retract the previous accusation. It's Dirk. Yup. Apollo? Dirk? I don't know what's going on here. I'm just a simple caveman lawyer who doesn't know what any of this case is about. But a lawyer should never look the way you do right now, with defeat and resignation written all over your face.
A dragon never yields.
Even when wounded, a dragon bites down hard and never lets go till its dying breath. It glares, it roars, and it latches its jaws firmly onto its prey until the bitter end. That's what lawyers do to get to the truth. Dirk, a dragon never yields. He's right. It's all over if I give up now. If Mr. Wright's hands are tied, it's up to me to do what must be done. He saved my neck so many times. Now it's my turn to save his. But a phoenix is a bird, not a dragon. But what about Apollo? Huh? Ah, Apollo, the Greek god of dragons. You didn't think of that, now did you? Dirk, thanks for that wake-up call. Now that's the face of a lawyer you've got there, son. Where there's a will, there's a way. And I'm going to find the way to save Ms. Faye and see that justice is served.